So my name is Aki. So I've been an engineer for the last probably like 3 or 4 years. Been in the industry. Started with machine learning for the last 12 years or so. And right now, I run my own consultancy firm. We do end-to-end AI consultancy in the AI space, sort of serving North American and European clients in different sectors. And we've seen quite a lot of AI systems sort of breaking down out in the wild, and we sort of worked with a lot of clients to improve these, and we've seen how sort of building like a really good AI quality dashboard it's going to help. So the focus today is to look at what sort of metrics to track in AI system and how to do that and how like a dashboard looks like in practice. And I'll show a couple of examples at the end, and we have time at the end to discussion as well. Um, Yeah. Thanks, Rohit. Yeah. Thank you for joining from Montreal. Thanks a lot for making the time, Rohit. Yeah, feel free to ask questions as we go. So yeah, just make like a really good discussion. So yeah. So for today's agenda is we're going to talk about like core problems in AI systems, sort of why PMs lose control of AI products, and then sort of looking into the aspects about like what quality looks like in AI systems and how and what sort of metrics to track and like why sort of traditional metrics do not work within the the way that PM sort of track AI systems. So it's slightly different what you need to track, and also like what sort of dashboards to look at, like to make sure that you understand the health of your system. So that's what we're gonna like talk about, and towards the end, we sort of look at a couple of dashboards from a tool called Langfuse that sort of tracks the end-to-end sort of AI landscape, and that would be like a really good opportunity for us to sort of have a more concrete discussion. At the end, I'll also show like one of the courses that we're doing in this space, so that if you guys are interested, that like you can learn a lot more with that. Um, as usual, feel free to ask questions in the chat, and I'll sort of stop to answer any questions that you may have. So if you look at the core problem, like the AI systems, sort of when you sort of deploy AI system in the wild, um, there are quite a few issues that could go wrong. And if you don't have the right kind of sort of the evals in place, it's really hard to sort of know when things fails, right? Especially the drift, like where things like the promise changes, like different kinds of like data changes happens, and because of that, like the system performance sort of degrades. So it's like something that's very sort of critical in machine learning, and it's not necessarily the same way that you track within AI systems. And because of that, similar to drift, there's also cost aspects, like depending on if you're running like multi-agent systems, there's a high probability that the cost can grow up, and like you may not know like until in a couple of months time you see your bill, and it's going to be like super high. OpenAI bill could be like thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars because like you run this like loop sort of multi-agent system out in the wild. And also like you may not know like until you start seeing like user drop-offs and different kinds of complaints coming in like few days or few weeks down the line, like user experience of the system going down. So because of that, so there are like different problems like this that come up in AI systems, but when you actually notice them, it's already too late. Like you lost your customer, you may have like lost certain sort of business opportunities. So it's really important to sort of understand these problems. So this is the problem we're trying to solve. And at the end of the session, one of the things, like only thing you need to like sort of, so one of like the main things that you need to remember is like what sort of metrics to track and how do you sort of track these within an AI system. So if you look at it like traditional PMs and also like somebody who track like SaaS systems, like any kind of software systems, they use tracks like DAU, CTR, NPS, those kind of sort of indicators. But these metrics are generally sort of lagging indicators. Like these information sort of comes after systems when people use systems, and we see some sort of results from that. And because of that, it's not necessarily the right metric to track in these kind of scenarios. And if you look at like A/B test, it's very it's quite too slow to model drift and also doesn't work in like small scale systems if you're like trying out something. Similarly, like user complaints may come few weeks down the line, and it's not enough real-time information for you to sort of make some actions. Generally, for especially for AI products, it's really important that you have leading indicators. So not the ones that you track afterwards. So that's one of the important things I want to highlight within this conversation. So that's the most important thing. Like, what are sort of the leading indicators, at least that you need to track to understand like that your system works well. So yeah, that's the theme of this conversation. So so I'll sort of like double down on this kind of like the topic where like it's important like you get the right kind of visibility within your system as soon as possible. So when you have that, you know, like whether to like fix some issues, like double down on your feature, like if it's working really well, like okay, double down. Like if there are like anomalies around cost, latency, you know, super fast on how to intervene and sort of either get the engineering team's help and try to fix those things. So this is like super critical, and especially if you're like sort of a consumer facing product, because you may not have the right kind of feedback loop set up, and then like when things break, it take like few days, few weeks to actually get the right kind of information back. So these kind of dashboards are super critical, and like it should be within the developer sort of process when you're building AI systems to have this in place, like not just general sort of feedback loops. You need to like think from an AI point of view, like what sort of metrics to track and have them in place. So yeah, I think like if you look at like from AI agentic sort of a tool that you may build, like what does like quality looks like? So I'll sort of break it down into like four sections. Like I mean, there are quite a few other sort of sub or micro sort of dimensions that you can look at. But these four things would be more than sufficient to like get the 80% sort of gains of your system. The reliability is one of these, like the consistency over time. This is like as the word says, like how does your AI system sort of performs with time. So it's really important you track that. The correctness itself, like these are probabilistic systems, and you can sort of like there's a tendency for the same input you may get like different output because purely because of the way that these models operate, etc. So correctness is like another sort of indicator that you need to track, and the cost, right? AI is not cheap, so it's very important that we understand this, and AI should be only deployed in problems that make sense from a financial point of view, and can these costs be measured and managed? And it's very important that we have these metrics in place to keep track of the number of tokens used, that like and like what's the growth of those tokens like with time? Are there spikes in different times? Are there anomalies, etc.? And also the third point, which is on the user experience, because the this is a broader topic actually, like looking at the trust element with AI systems, like the and also like how easy it is to like get something done. Is it like hallucinating? Is it like suggesting like wrong links? So all of these things encapsulated is around user experience. So how do you also measure that? So I think like the dashboard may not be the right thing for that, but I think like at least the top three, the reliability, correctness, and cost elements can be easily sort of measured through a dashboard. Um, so I'll um, go a bit in detail, like for each sort of metric. So we spoke about reliability, right? So like, what does reliability look like within AI systems, like the error rate, latency variance, number of retries, like if like is the API sort of failing, like how many times they're trying out, etc. And the correctness. So especially this is around evals, like so you could have like a golden data set like evals, so that sort of checks with time how well your system is performing. Like if you do some changes to the prompt or some sort of integration, like is it passing the same set of evals? So if you've seen test cases within traditional software development, the same is called like evals. So you write these descriptive prompts to actually to decide if the for a given input the output that you're getting is correct. So that you have to run these evals to make sure that the system is not sort of behaving in abnormal way. Then the cost, like you need to figure out like cost per successful task and the token spikes, things like that, so that you know like okay, um, on Sundays maybe there's a token spikes, and you know that if something happens, you know how to manage that, etc. So it's not an abnormal sort of a event. And also use experience, rephrasing, sort of corrections, abandonment. So like if you look at like, I mean, simplest example could be something like ChatGPT, and if you the user stops the interaction, user do any corrections for the output that you got from the chatbot. So those kind of things. Like so, it's very important that you sort of keep track of them as well. So these things generally needs to come from a software engineering sort of wiring rather than the traditional AI sort of tracking, but still, these are super critical if you are going to build a system and sort of maintain, put it, especially when you put that out in the wild. So it's very important that you sort of make sure these things are sort of tracked. Um, so yeah, I think um, so the reason of the purpose of a dashboard is to help the product manager or even like the CTOs or the engineers to decide like should we ship, should we hold, should we roll back that feature, or should we investigate more to figure out like what is the issue. So I think these are the questions you're trying to answer from the dashboard, and you need to pick the right kind of metrics and the types of charts, type of diagrams that sort of answer these questions. So if your dashboard can't support this, it is incomplete. You need to figure out how to sort of wire this in, because that's the way that you can move forward in a more safe manner, and also in a much more confident way, because otherwise you'll be sort of shooting in the dark and doesn't make sense. So I think if you look at it like going from sort of theory to practice, I think the obvious sort of question you're looking at is like where do these signals come from an AI system? So the term called AI observability, there are different names like like observability. Um, the it stems from traditional software engineering. So you look at like right kind of metrics, and you sort of keep observing these metrics within the system, and so if you do the right kind of wiring integrations within your system, it will sort of emit these metrics and you can sort of keep track of that. So that's the next step from planning out the right kind of metrics to have, and then putting them in a dashboard so that you understands that these are the sort of the elements that you need to track. So that's where the observability comes into play. Um, so so I spoke about a tool called Langfuse. This is not the only tool. There are like 20 to 30 odd tools that are out there that does similar things with different kinds of pros and cons. But Langfuse has been like I would say the top three, one of the top three tools out there that gives you really good set of features in this space. So it can sort of capture every AI interaction. So they capture it as a trace, and these traces have a lot of information. So it will track the quality of the interaction, the cost, the latency, and you have all of this information with that interaction. So it's not just the input and output that we get, but also other information. And then you can sort of compare the behavior of your system across different releases, across different prompt versions. So you can do that within the system. So Langfuse is like all-in-one platform for observability, and dashboards are one of those tools. So I want to like quickly show what this looks like so that we could have like a in-depth sort of exploration. In the meantime, feel free to ask questions. Happy to sort of answer them as well. Um, cool. So if you go to Langfuse, you'd have within the dashboards, you have something like this. So you have like three pre-built dashboards, which would give you cost, usage, and latency information. So these are like quite important factors within AI system. So this is my personal account. So my sort of systems are very simple that I use for personal projects. So you wouldn't see a lot of usage in this, but you'll see enough information, the type of metrics that we're tracking to understand how this can be useful. So let's look at the cost dashboard first. So if I select long-term period, so the dashboard would look something like this. So you get like total trace count, observations, different types of cost breakdown by model, and the actual total cost with time, cost by environment. So if you have different environments, production, staging, etc., you can break it down. Top 20 use cases by cost and top 20 use cases. Yeah, sorry, so it's the same chart. So likewise, so there are a few examples. You can have like the statistical sort of distribution for observability as well. So you can do a lot more charts like this. This is for cost. But if you go back, we could have a similar chart for usage management. So yeah, it's around like how much of the usage of the system from number of traces, accounts, all sort of information. Um, so another tool is Langfuse cost dashboard. This is regarding cost. So the good thing about Langfuse is that it can track cost really well as well. So you have that information here. So these are like templates, and you can sort of clone it and sort of edit them and get what you really want. But if you really want, you can start from scratch and create a new dashboard. So I was just playing around with it and added some simple dashboards a few minutes back. So you can have sort of sum total cost, um, total cost, etc. So this is number of observations, cost breakdown, and you can add different types of widgets. This would be like different types of metrics you want to track. So you can select either traces, observations. These are like individual interactions that you may have with the system, and you can figure out like what sort of information to track. So for traces, you're going to track the total cost, total tokens. Um, so you can pick whatever you like, and then you can pick the right type of sort of the chart that you're looking at. So as I said, like these sets are quite small. So because of that, you wouldn't see a lot of information within the system. But generally, if your system is in production, you're going to see a lot of information like this. And it's important that you use a tool like this to capture the right information. So Langfuse is a very broad tool. I mean, if you look at it, like not just dashboards, you have tracing information. So if you go here, you would have like previous traces, the interactions I've had, different information around this. So this is like the raw data that you can actually see. If you click one of them, you'll see um, you have the latency, environment, the cost, number of prompts, tokens used, and the actual interaction itself. So you have this like very specific down to the last dot type of information, and that helps you to like drive really sort of insightful decisions of the system. And you can have like alerts as well, like depending on like what sort of triggers you may have. Apart from that, you could store prompts. So like rather than having the prompts within the AI system, you can manage prompts separate in a system like this. Apart from this, there's LLM-as-a-judge. So this is like how you can write evals and store them in the system, and it can evaluate your system periodically. So for correctness, for hallucinations, and there are different types of sort of evaluators that you may have. Like you can write custom evaluators. You can have around like faithfulness, goal accuracy, like depending on whatever you want to sort of measure, you can write. So these are like complex prompts that analyze the output for a given input and compare it like how correct that is. So this is like the traditional sort of the golden test set or the eval suit that you may have for a system, and you can have evaluator to evaluate those given input and output pairs. But this is, as I said, like too much information. But going back, what I really want to highlight is the dashboard piece that sort of because of that information is there, you can sort of summarize that in a dashboard like this that would give you really good insights of your system. Um, so yeah, I think this is why I want to like sort of pause and can go back to the slide. Yeah. So yeah, so just checking in if there are any questions. No questions yet. Um, so I think like the system like Langfuse is going to help you a lot when it comes to controlling and sort of having this um, overview of the system so that you're comfortable sort of delivering new features. So that's why it's super important that you have this from day one, like you have that, and you work with the engineering team to build this stuff into it. So think, yeah, I think this is the last set of the information slide. So the key takeaway is like this isn't about tools and it's about control. So it's very important as product managers or founders who are building tools that you have the full picture. I think dashboard is like one way to put it, but there are different other ways. You can have alerts, things like that. But the idea is like if you have the right kind of observability in place, you can have the right picture of your system, and that's going to sort of help you sort of drive the right kind of interaction with your system. So that's the takeaway of this message session, like where you need to think this from day one of planning, like what sort of observability tool that you're going to have and what sort of metrics that you're going to sort of integrate and measure, and depends on like what are your KPIs, what are you looking for. Are you going to like manage the cost? Are you going to manage the accuracy of your system? So if you have the right kind of sort of stemming from these projects sort of KPIs, you would sort of trickle it down, like get some sort of a derivation of that. That's going to help you define the metrics that you need to track within the system, and you build a dashboard with a tool like Langfuse to keep track with time. So that's the core idea of this session. And if you like to go into like detail, like about like sort of how to write good evals, how do you sort of wire these in, how do you sort of see this in production? We do have a course as well, but all of this information will be shared in an email. So rather than me going through this right now, but especially for everybody who joined today, we give like a 30% discount. And Yeah, so feel free to use this. It's 30% discount. Anybody who join, it's a one-day workshop that we look at sort of building um, really good AI evaluations and like how to sort of integrate that to the system. So, but I want to like pause here and let you guys ask questions. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions if you have, or just type it in the chat as well. Yeah, that's a question from Vincent. Is there opportunities for small companies to create all audit services using tools such as Langfuse? Sorry, AI audit services using a tool such as Langfuse. Um, Vincent, the question is about like auditing your tools, or is it like building an audit service to audit other people's AI tools? I assume it's your tools that you need to audit. So you're mute, by the way. Sorry. Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
Yeah, I was asking for companies that are still in the dark regarding the LLMs and performance. Do you see that as a niche market or small companies that can come in and say, "Hey, you need to have these type of tools so that you can see," as you just said,
yeah,
companies need to be able to see
yeah,
what the LLMs are doing.
yeah.
But I'm thinking in terms of a small business.
Okay.
Is that a market to you, approach companies and say, "Hey,
Oh, I see.
you
Okay. I understood the question. Yeah. So it's like this being you building a product for like smaller companies to evaluate their systems. Okay, got it. Yeah. Yeah, I think 100% yes. So I think like, and you are advantage as well. That like even if you take Langfuse, it's an open source tool. They have their cloud services, but they also have open source version. So if you can sort of deploy these with these clients, because I think the actual value comes like probably 80% of the value comes from writing the right kind of evals. So if you can be the consultant, the company that's going to go and implement one of these systems, that's where the biggest money is, like because people are struggling to sort of do that. So that's the thing. You don't have to necessarily build something from scratch because there are quite a few open source tools that you can directly use. And even if you want to build, that is fine. But I think the critical point is like people don't know how to write pick the right kind of metrics, and then how do you write the evaluators, like the evaluations. That's those are the two hard parts. So if you come from that angle, you're gonna like, yeah, there's a massive market right now. Yeah, definitely, I would say massive opportunity.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem. Cool. And also like I think Ray shared a link on WhatsApp. WhatsApp link. We do have like a group. We talk about AI a lot of we share a lot of information, free resources. Feel free to join, and like you can reach out to us as well on those channels. And also just a quick note, like if we are sort of like going through the course, there is a link here. You can sort of grab a screenshot. This is a letter for your employee. So if you are sort of like getting reimbursed, there's a like a document that has like a letter showing what we'll cover during this session and like details about the course, so that you can get that sort of reimbursed. A relatively low fee course, this one being a day course, and you can find the course here as well. So yeah, starting in few days. Feel free to reach out if you guys have any questions. Yeah, I'll keep it here so that you guys can take screenshots if needed. Um, if you don't have any questions, we could sort of wrap it up. Just to make sure I'll leave a few seconds. Cool. All right. Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining. It's super awesome to see, and thanks a lot for everyone who asking questions. And do reach out if there are any eval related, AI related questions. More than happy to answer them through LinkedIn or WhatsApp. Happy to help. But yeah, have a nice rest of the day, and let's keep in touch.